Hi everyone. Today we're going to finish the last part of the test. I am going to do questions 10, 11, 12, and 13 all on one video. For questions 10 and 11 and 12, they are very hard to go ahead and change. So basically, for these questions, you can copy down everything that I write. They are the exact same question. I cannot change the graph. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the same question for 10, 11, and 12. So your test questions should be the same as what I am writing for 10, 11, and 12. Everyone should have this picture perfect on their test. Okay, so for 10, 11, and 12, they want us to write an equation. It's very nice that they set this all up for us. The first question is it sine or cosine? This one we start. Remember, sine starts at 0 and ends at 0. Cosine starts at the amplitude. Now, as long as the midline is y is equal to 0, in which this case is the midline is y is equal to 0, the way you find the midline is it's the distance midway between the max and the min. You can see right here that your max is 1 and your min is -1, okay? Okay, so is this sine or cosine? This is cosine. Was it reflected? No. The way you tell if cosine is reflected is if it starts at -1. Okay, so if cosine, if it starts at -1 and then goes back up like that, then it would then reflected. My amplitude, 1. I do want you guys to keep an eye out for the changes in the x-axis. Whenever you write an equation, you're always writing it from 0 to 2 pi. That's the case here, from 0 to 2 pi. This one's 11 is 0 to 2 pi, but when we get down to 12, we have to be a little careful with that. All right, so we want to see the frequency. We start at 1, we end at 1. That's 1. And then you guys take this right here, you start right here at 1 and end at 1, and you will see that we have a frequency of 2. The midline is y is equal to 0, and then you guys can just put all this together. For an equation, we always have y is equal to, we have our reflection, if we have a reflection, with my amplitude, sine or cosine, the frequency, and the midline. Okay, so that's what that all stands for. So we have y is equal to, we have our amplitude, 1, and you don't necessarily, if the amplitude is 1, you don't really need to write that. Cosine, 2x plus 0, and again, you don't actually have to write this plus 0, so it would be y is equal to cosine 2x. All right, this next one, we start at 0. So we know that that's going to be sine. If it's reflected, it's moving downwards. If it's not, it's going to move up. So no, it's not reflected. My amplitude, 0, 1, 2, 3. So I have an amplitude of 3. The frequency, we start at 0. Midway, we're back at 0. And then we end at 0. That would be 1 right here. And then the other one starting at 0, midway back to 0, ending at 0. So we have another frequency of 2. And I do want you guys to note that, again, this is going from 0 to 2 pi, so we don't have to do anything with that frequency if that's the case. Midline, y is equal to 0. You find that midline by finding the midway between our max and our min. This is 3, -3, so you guys can see that that's y is equal to 0. Put all this together, y is equal to 3 sine 2x plus 0, and you don't need that plus 0, but it won't hurt either. All right, this one is a little tricky. We have a few things going on. The first thing that we have to think about is the midline. The second thing we have to think about is that the fact that it's going from 0 to pi. So whenever we get our frequency, we're going to have to double it because we want to get to 2 pi. Okay? So the midline right here is at y is equal to 2 because our min is 1, our max is 3. The midway between 1 and 3 is 2. So we know that this is y is equal to 2. That means that this whole thing was shifted 2 units up. Every point was shifted 2 units up, okay? So a lot of kids want to say, oh, this is starting at 2, so it's cosine because it's starting at the amplitude. Well, it actually really started at this right here, 0, and it was shifted 2 units up. So this is actually sine. Was it reflected? No, it's moving upward, so no. The amplitude, you have to, again, be very careful with this because a lot of kids want to say the amplitude is 3. Okay, that's not the amplitude. That 3 was shifted 2 units up, so our amplitude is actually 1. And if that 1 was shifted 2 units up, then I would be at 3. Okay, the frequency, okay, we're going to start at 0, midway back to 0, and end at 0. So you guys can see that we have a frequency of 1 here, but that's from 0 to pi. We want to get to 2 pi, so if we have one frequency from 0 to pi, and I need to go ahead and go to 2 pi, I'm going to go ahead and double it. So I'm going to have a frequency of 2. So my equation will be y is equal to, my amplitude is 1 sine 2x plus 2. And again, you don't need that 1 there and that 0, but it's fine that you have that. Okay, again, these questions here should be exactly the same because I couldn't change those graphs. So you should be able to get all points for questions 10, 11, and 12. Okay, moving on to the last question that you are going to see for this test, and that's going to be question 13. I'm just going to change these numbers right here, so just keep that in mind when you guys are going ahead and doing that. So I'll change 30 to 20. We'll do a rotation every 2 minutes, and we will be 2 feet. Okay, so a carnival Ferris wheel with a radius of 20. So we have this right here, and we have a radius of 20. So that's halfway a radius. A radius is from one point to the center. So going to the top, we would have another 20. Makes one complete rotation every 2 minutes. So that's every 2 minutes right there. If the passenger gets on the ride when the seat is at its lowest point, 2 feet off the ground. So the Ferris wheel is 2 feet off the ground here. So you're going to be stepping on a platform there. Determine each of the following. So our min right here is going to be 2. Our max right here, we have 20 plus 20 plus the 2. So that's going to give us a max of 42. Now remember, you're using your numbers. So you're going to draw the Ferris wheel right here, and you're going to have a radius of 30 and 30. And it's going to be off the ground 3 feet. So this right here is what you use. Okay, these are my numbers. This right here would be your numbers. Okay, your midline is going to be 22. Okay, now remember, to find the midline, you're going to take your lowest point to your highest point and divide it by 2. So I have 42 plus 2 divided by 2. So that gives me 44 divided by 2, which gives me 22. Okay, so that's going to be my midline right there at 22. My amplitude is right here at 20. My period right here is at 2. And my frequency is 2 pi divided by the period, which would be pi. Okay? All right, so if you can imagine this Ferris wheel, it's starting right here and moving this way, right? And that, so you're gonna, if you can envision this right here, the Ferris wheel going up and down, right? You're gonna see that that's gonna be cosine. So we wanna write a possible equation, a cosine equation. We have y is equal to, when you see this, you're going to see that it's going to be negative. Okay, cosine usually looks like this right here, right? So it's reflected or flipped, so it is negative. My amplitude is 20. Okay, now again, you're dealing with your amplitude. Your amplitude would have been 30. Your period would have been 4. Your frequency would have been 2 pi divided by 4, which will end up being pi over 2. So remember that you are using your numbers, okay? So we have our amplitude, cosine, frequency. My frequency is pi, plus my midline, which is 22, okay? All right, so I am going to grab my calculator quickly. I should have had it right with me, but thank you. This, you need to do some changes to go ahead and do this sketch right here. I am going to do extra credit for this sketch right here because we didn't focus in on sketching sine and cosine and radians. But I think it's fairly easy to do, so I want you guys to at least attempt it if you want some extra points. So this is extra credit on your test. And it's nice and easy once you guys set up your calculator. So when you guys were setting up your calculator before, we were always in degree mode, okay? We're gonna go ahead and switch this. The first thing that you're gonna do is you're going to change your mode. So everyone can go ahead and change that right now. You're gonna change your mode to radian. So hit radian. Okay, once you go ahead and do that, you're going to go ahead and do your window. Notice this window right here, your x goes from 0 to 4. So you're going to go from 0 to 4, and the scale is going up by 1. Okay, so you should have x min, x max, and your scale. So we should have 0, 4, and 1. That should be your x. Your y value, notice your y value. Your y min starts at 0. Your y max is 70. And your scale, this is going up by 3s. You can go up by 3s if you want, make it a little easier. And that's that. So that should be your window. All right, so everyone should have that in your window. Now you guys need to go to second table setup, so second window. So everyone should hit second window, and you're going to have your table start at 0, and you're going to, this was at 45 because we were talking degrees, now it's going to go up by 1, so change that to 1. So your table start should be at 0, and your change, we want to change it, your table change by 1. Okay, once you have that, everything else is nice and easy. All you're going to do is you're going to hit y, you're going to put your equation in, negative 30 cosine, that's the equation that you should have. Y is equal to negative 30 cosine pi over 2x plus 32. This actually should be what you have as your equation, okay? So hopefully that's what you got after doing all the work. So you hit negative cosine. You can hit alpha y equals to put your fraction in. Second, right here is pi over 2x plus the 32. All right, once you're done with that, you can do second table, and you have your x and your y, and we're going to graph 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, we're going to go from 2, 32, 62, 32, and back down to 2 for that. Okay, you can go ahead and graph those points on your graph. Okay, make sure you're precise, that you're actually going 0, 2, so forth and so on, 132, and graph those points. All right, find the height after, find the height of a person after 2 minutes. So 2 minutes, okay, remember this is minutes, this is your height. So after 2 minutes, well, nice and easy, it's sitting right here. So this should be right here. 3 minutes, boom, right here. That's nice and easy. You can just grab everything from your table. This one's a little tougher here because that's not on our table. So you're gonna have to use your equation. Y is equal to negative 30 cosine pi over 2 x plus 32. This is your x value, so you're going to put that in for x. So you have y is equal to negative 30 cosine pi over 2 times 6.5 plus 32. Okay, you can quit this, throw that right into your calculator, and round it to the nearest tenth. Okay, all right, if you have any questions, I am not going to do this bonus with you. You can try this. We've done a lot of work with logs and expanding the logs. So let's see how many of you guys can get this one right. I imagine that a lot of you guys are going to. So this is also bonus. I'm not going to do the video on it. I'm going to see what you guys do with that. But all right, if you have any questions, please send me an email. Have a wonderful day. Bye.